Hey guys, what's going on? James Daniel here to make buying a home in San Pedro, California simple. So today we're going to talk about should you buy a home in 2024? As you know, buying a home is a huge investment and you really want to do the research before you just jump into purchasing a home. So today's video, we're going to go over some of the advantages and disadvantages of buying a home in 2024 here in San Pedro, California, as well as some strategies to really help you out that, maybe you have the money and you're on the fence, you don't know if it's really the right thing you want to do, or you're just right there and you could buy a home, but you really don't want to be house poor. So let's go ahead and get into it. So first, let's talk about the pros. And the first thing that comes to mind would just be the growing of property values. San Pedro continues to be a place of growth and development, and by buying a home here now can be a smart investment for you in the future as the property values continue to grow. Just in the past 12 months for single family homes, condos, townhomes, and apartments, we've seen about a 9% increase in the median home values. And I think that is going to continue to grow. If you see my video in the past of why I moved to San Pedro, one of the reasons was just the cost compared to, say, Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach, and even down to Long Beach. So I do think the ceiling here is still high. And to be able to help us get to that ceiling, we do have the new West Harbor coming in, which should be somewhat done by the end of 2025. I'm going to be going there and viewing that, which I'll have a video for you guys soon about how that new development is coming along. But this will basically be 42 acres of drinks, food, fun for you and the family. There's supposed to even be an amphitheater there, a place for your dogs to be able to run while you're drinking a beer. So I do believe that by the time this is all said and done, the rent and the property values are definitely going to continue to increase. So before we move on to the next part, let's go ahead and just look at some of the different home types here and what the median value is and how much that has increased over the past 12 months. For single family homes, the median estimated value is $984,000 with a growth of 10.9% over the past 12 months. For condos, the median estimated value is $614,110 with a 3.9% growth over the past 12 months. And for multifamily, we're seeing a median estimated value of $921,000 with a growth of 4.3% over the past 12 months. So as you can see, San Pedro is already growing year over year, and with all the new things coming, I'm pretty sure that should continue to increase as time will go on. So the number 2 benefit of buying a home in San Pedro in 2024 would be the tax benefits. And I want to start by clarifying and saying I am not a CPA. Once again, I am not a CPA, but I do know that there are some tax benefits when buying a home, and those can come with mortgage interest and property taxes. Once again, speak to your CPA, really get clear on what these benefits are and how they can help you make buying a home more affordable today and in the future. So number 3 would just be stability and personalization by owning your own home. And I don't want to sound like I'm hating on anyone who's renting, because I know every situation is different. In some situations, it may make sense to rent while you're saving up over time. Maybe you just want to be a renter, you're only going to be there in a certain time frame and that fits for you. So every situation is different for everyone. So I think I'm kind of speaking to the person who's on the fence about if they should buy a home or stay renting, and really looking for some different points of views on that. So one of the things would be just personalization. So being able to paint your walls whatever you want to. If you want to paint them blue, if you want to paint them purple, if you want to change the kitchen, change the bathroom, whatever you want, you can do that fits best for you in your home. Whereas renting a home, you might not be able to do that. And if you do some of these things, you may have to change it back before you move out of the home. Another thing would be obviously the amount you're paying for rent going up month over month or year over year, depending on what type of lease you have. Whereas when I first bought my home here, I had a higher monthly payment, interest rates dipped a bit, I refinanced out. Now I have a lower monthly payment, and that, usually is not the same. Usually don't go down when you're renting a home. It's usually likely to go up after the end of that lease, depending on who your landlord is. And by renting, you're also subject to whatever the landlord wants to do. Not only with just rent, I mean, if you're living in like kind of a bigger kind of complex, this may not be the case, but a landlord could decide to move back into his house. he could decide to sell the place. He could decide to short-term rentals or month-to-month rentals or whatever that might be at the end of your lease term, and then you have to go and find something else. So you have to accrue the cost of moving again, which if anyone has moved, you know how tiresome and how costly that can be. So you really are up to the landlord's discretion when you are renting, especially in just like a one-off rental and not like a big complex or things like that. So definitely some things to consider when you're thinking about purchasing a home here in San Pedro, California in 2020. So number 4 would be building equity. And equity is the difference between the market value of your home and the outstanding balance you have left on your mortgage. So similar to what I was talking about before as far as the rising of property value, this equity is the dollar amount that, say if you were to sell your home minus all of the expenses, that would be that dollar amount that you would take home after selling your home. So essentially, any mortgage payment that you make is equity, turns into equity because you're paying that loan amount down. Whereas you're paying rent, that's just going to wherever through your landlord's pockets. That down payment you made up front, that pretty much turns into equity. Year-over-year appreciation, as we spoke about before, as that market value continues to grow, that turns into equity for you. Any key home improvements that you do within your home, you get reappraised, that growth in value turns into equity. So over time, year over year, 10, 20 years from now, that equity in your home can be a key financial driver in your life as time goes on, improvements goes on, and as you continue to pay down that mortgage. So now let's get into the cons. I wish they could all be pros, but there is definitely cons of buying a home in 2024, especially in 2024 here in San Pedro, California. But first, are you liking this content? If so, please feel free to hit the like button if this video is helping you learn about the pros and cons of buying a home in 2024. If you want more videos like this, please feel free to hit the subscribe button, where I'm trying to put videos out at least 1 to 2 times per week to help you on your home buying journey. If you want more assistance with this, please feel free to hit the links below. I have a guide called Home Buying 101, which will help you learn more about the steps of buying a home, and a guide on buying and selling at the same time. I know that can be very tough to navigate, and I have a guide that gives you some feedback on how to do this properly. But let's get back into the video and speak more about the cons of buying a home in 2024. So the number 1 con, which was actually a pro in the last section, would just be home prices continue to rise. And this is because the demand has outpaced the supply that we have here, especially in California and even in San Pedro, which is one of the contributors of the home prices just continuing to rise. And it doesn't help that we live here in California. So if we look at this chart here, according to Redfin, the median sales price in the US is $442,525. In California, that's $858,600. And in San Pedro, we're at $837,500, which, as you can see, that's almost more than double to buy a home here in California or in San Pedro than the rest of the country. So I decided to look at that at more of a monthly breakdown. So if you can see this next chart here, we can see some of the costs you have here. So this example is giving that if you put 10% down, the interest rate around 6.8, how much your monthly payment would be, and how much you would need to bring for close. So first, let's talk about bringing to close. So this includes your down payment, your closing costs, and other, prepaid costs as far as taxes, insurance, and things like that. You would need to have brought to close $105,930. As far as your monthly payment, this includes your principal and interest, your taxes, your insurance, PMI, because you didn't put down 20. And once again, this is just an estimate. You're looking at a monthly payment of $6,331. So this has definitely made it tough to buy a home here in California, in San Pedro, California, which is definitely a con when you're trying to get into the housing market this year. The number 2 con would just be when you're renting, you don't have to pay really for maintenance and repairs. If something goes down, you're calling somebody. If they want to update something, cool, they're paying for it. It's coming out of their pockets. Now, when you buy a home, or a condo or whatever it is, that's all on you now. So if something happens with your piping, you have to call a plumber and get that fixed. If something happens with something in your yard, your sprinkler system, or whatever that is, you have to call someone to put money to get that fixed. So the cost of maintenance and repairs are extensive, and to be able to make sure you have those covered, you may want to get a home warranty, which is another cost that you're going to have to add up to. If you're living in a townhome or condo, most of those take care, the HOA takes care of the common areas and the landscaping for that, but that comes with a cost, which is your HOA fees that you have to pay each month. So definitely can be a con that you need to think about when you're deciding to buy a home in 2024, that may be an additional expense that you're going to have to pay that you weren't paying while you were renting. The next would be just the upfront cost, and this can be multiple different things. So as you've seen from the example before, you got to factor in your down payment, your closing costs, other things like the first 14 months of insurance, taxes, other different costs from the title and escrow companies that you're going to need to have when you are first deciding to buy a home. Outside of that, you have to get from one home to the next, right? So you then have to pay for movers. You may need to buy things for your new home. Other things may come up, other costs may come up in between there too as well. So definitely something to think about before you move forward in your next home is making sure you have enough to cover all of these upfront costs of buying the home, as well as costs of getting to your next home and be able to put some good things inside of it. So the next con of buying a home in 2024 would be the rising interest rates. So this is something you can't get away from, whether you're looking on social media, the news, whatever form of outlet that you get your information from. The interest rates are just continuing to rise year over year since the past few years. So if you're looking at the chart that I have here, in July 22nd, 2021, we were at a 2.78% interest rate. Today, we're at 6.7%, which is a little bit lower than it was a few months ago, but still, if you look at these rising home prices and factor in this interest rate, your monthly payment is still going to be significantly higher than it was a few years ago. So when I'm working with people who are trying to buy a home, I tell them to focus on that monthly payment. So when you are looking to buy a home, you really are going to have to take into consideration, with this interest rate, does this monthly payment work for me? And definitely something that you want to think about before moving forward, because you do not want to be house poor and not be able to do anything as a homeowner. So definitely another con when we're talking about cons here in 2024. All right, so we went over the pros, we went over the cons, and I hope this helps you just get some more input on if buying a home is right for you in 2024, whether it's in Los Angeles, in San Pedro, or wherever you are watching this in the country. But now I just want to talk about a few strategies that you can potentially use to make buying a home more affordable, make more sense for you. The last thing you want to do is to get into a home and be house poor just because you thought buying a house was right now, you can't do anything else. So these are a few strategies and maybe things to think about when you're deciding to buy a home in 2024 to really help it be more affordable. Now, there may be other things out here. These are just a few things that I thought of that for people who are kind of on the edge or maybe even looking to invest in the future. So I really hope these strategies help for you. If you have more strategies, please put those down in the comments, but let's talk about a few. So the first thing was, it's not really a strategy, but more of a mindset shift for some people would be, and even a budget shift for some, would just be buying a condo. Sometimes I'll meet with buyers and they'll say, hey, I want to buy a single family home. They'll get pre-approved and then they realize they don't have enough money to buy a single family home in this current market, especially here in California. So they're like, I'm out. And I think that you really have to have a mindset shift on that, of just getting in the game, and a few other reasons. One of the reasons is, I think buying a condo, getting in, can really help you learn about more being a homeowner. I bought a condo about 6 years ago, and I have learned just so much about just being a homeowner, as far as who to call when something goes wrong, my home warranty, my HOA, what that covers, seeing those external costs that I would have to pay if I had a single family home, as far as like landscaping or maybe more external things that happens in the house. So really learning and being prepared for that single family home in the future by buying a condo now can really help you get there. The other reason, as I mentioned before, is just for budget, right? The median sold price for a single family home here in San Pedro, California is $964,110 in the month of June. For a condo, is $675,000. So significant decrease. Yes, you will probably have an HOA, but once again, that HOA is probably covering things that you would have to be covering as a homeowner. So you're able to get in at a lower price, and then after a few years, sell that the condo, and use that equity to buy a single family home. So I think this could be definitely a mindset shift by starting and getting into the game with a condo and then going to that single family home, because as you've seen from some of the pros, this cost of houses are continue to grow year over year. So you don't want to be priced out by trying to wait and have to save more money. Get in the game and then kind of make some shifts from there. So the second strategy could just be house hacking. And you ask, James, what the heck is house hacking? So house hacking is when you buy a home and then you rent the rooms out to help offset the monthly mortgage. So this can be a number of ways. You could do Airbnb. When I first bought my condo, I Airbnb just one room. I didn't want to have long-term roommates, so I felt like renting an Airbnb could make more money than having a long-term roommate, which it did, and I have less people to live with me during the month. But I did have to live with strangers, which I was okay with that. That was the sacrifice I was willing to make. You could do month-to-month rentals, so whether that's a room in your house, you have a month-to-month lease with someone coming in, whether that's a business professional, friend, travel nurse, whatever that is. Or we can just do a long-term roommate, that's a friend, family member, whatever that might be. Being able to use that income to help offset the monthly mortgage to make it more affordable for you on a month-to-month basis. So let's look at the numbers as if you were able to house hack one of the rooms in your house with the example I used before of $837,000. So if you bought a home for $837,000, your monthly payment was $6,011, and this is once again from the example, assuming you put 10% down with an interest rate of 6.8, and you were able to rent a room out for $1,200 to $1,500. Your monthly payment would decrease from $6,000 to $4,500 or $4,800, depending on where this house is or how much you can get for rent with that room. Now imagine if this is a 3-bedroom house, and we'll use the example of using $1,300. So with 2 rooms renting for $1,300, maybe you have 3 bathrooms, maybe someone's sharing a bathroom. So once again, this is just an estimate. That would cut down your monthly mortgage payment to $3,400. So definitely a huge decrease by using this method of house hacking, which can help you make your home more affordable. As I mentioned before, get in the game, and then you can kind of transition after that out to the next thing that works for you. So the next strategy would be buying a multifamily home. Here in San Pedro, we have an abundant amount of multifamily homes. I believe there were about almost 60 multifamily homes sold last year in various different types. And if you want to learn more about these different types, I recommend reading the book Multifamily Millionaires, one of the Bigger Pockets books. But this could be another form of house hacking where instead of the last form I talked about where you're actually living in the house with other people renting out rooms, you're actually buying a property that has 2 to 4 units on it. You're living in one and renting out the other ones. And this is really something I wish I would have looked more into when I was buying my first home, just because of the type of loan products that you could potentially get. So you're able to use potentially an FHA loan and put 3.5% to buy a multifamily home. And depending on your circumstances, could use a conventional loan with less money down if the numbers work, obviously, depending on what strategy you're using to rent out those different units. So you can once again do the long-term rent in some of these units and get the numbers like I spoke to you about before, maybe even higher, because you're now not living with these people and they have their own place, so the rent would be probably higher. People would be willing to pay more for their own condo, essentially. Or you could do short-term rental depending on the city or county that you live in. You could do Airbnb in these units, and you're over there kind of managing, and you're on site and making sure nothing goes wrong. But you want to look at the rules for the city or county before you go ahead and do this. Or month-to-month rentals. So you're renting out to travel nurses, you're renting out to people working. Maybe you're working with insurance companies. People are misplaced and need a place to live, and your unit's one of them. And by using those two strategies, you could probably get more rent than you would with a long-term rental. So you have more options to use within there. So definitely consider multifamily a strategy to be able to make your first home more affordable, just to get into the game. So that concludes this video. We've gone over some pros, which as far as the growing home values will help you build equity, to rent stabilization, as far as you're not gonna have to worry about your rent going up month over month. It's essentially gonna go down if you decide to refinance. And just being able to personalize your home the way you want to some cons is, home prices are higher right now than they have been in the past. Interest rates are higher than they have been over the past few years. And as well as those upfront costs of getting into a home are also another hurdle as well. But I hope that some of these strategies that I gave you just more of a ways to think outside of the box and being a homeowner. Some ways you're going to have to sacrifice in these times, whether you are really tight on your finances, or whether you have a second job, or maybe you're willing to do some of these house hack strategies to be able to get into a home. So hope this helps anyone on their home buying journey. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. My information is here. Take care. Until the next video. Ciao.